Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Faith Family Focus. I am your co-host, Faith Suggs, former Duke Women's basketball graduate and currently working as CEO and founder of my company, Brand by Faith, a social media company dedicated to telling the digital stories of our clients. And this wonderful man next to me is my father, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, has also served on the executive board and as VP with the RPFPC, also an NFLPA Chicago chapter. How are you, Dad? Good morning.
Good morning. Just city,
What is new? How are you? You were just here. That's why he's being weird, everybody. But he was just in Kansas. Dad, how are you doing? How was your travels?
Well, we have a lot of snow here. I think we got about 8 inches, and it's still coming down.
Yep, winter snow is around the corner for everybody. The South and the Southeast is getting it pretty bad. Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for sharing where you're at, Buford. Morning, Suggs Muggs from Fort Myers, which obviously there's no snow there.
Good morning. No, there's no snow on the beach.
I'm sure there might be some in Elkhart, Indiana, though.
Well, isn't there always snow in Indiana and Illinois? Good morning, everybody. Yeah, you were just here. I'm sure it was a nice little vacation towards from 20-degree weather to 30-degree weather. So sad, but that's the Midwest for you.
So for the viewers, I got a chance to visit Faith, my daughter, and Shane. They played the big game against Kansas State. It was one of the most exciting basketball games. Actually, it was the first college basketball games that I had been to, men's basketball game that I've been to in a long time. I can't even remember. And it was just electric, exciting. And unfortunately, we came out on the losing end of it, but all it came down to the wire. But really enjoyed it. The weather was nice. My first time in Manhattan, Kansas. I was pleasantly surprised. I love the landscape, the hills. It was actually beautiful there. So
you have your hat on.
Great trip. I have the Kansas State hat on, then I'm sporting the white and purple with the Wildcats on it. So had to display that.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you coming. Yeah, definitely a lot of crazy basketball. It wasn't just the game we were at. We were at, obviously Kansas State, a major rivalry. But there's this basketball season. I cannot wait to cover some of it once we get to March, because I don't know how anybody's going to predict who wins it all, because some of these conferences, obviously the Big 12 is extremely hard, but some of these conferences are filled with superstars. These kids are just different now. They're just different.
Speaking of superstars, the young lady from Kansas State broke the NCAA women's scoring record of 61 points yesterday.
Yep. She broke Rachel Bannum's. If you guys don't know who Rachel played, she played actually, at Minnesota. She's from Minnesota kid. Yeah, I'll show you a picture. Ayoka Lee, 61 points. She's 6'7", and she was, I think, 20 for 23 from the field. 61 points in a basketball game against number 14 Oklahoma.
Outstanding.
You just don't score 61 points in a lifetime.
Yeah, no, and she wasn't missing. I mean, I know a lot of them right from the basket, but still, she got a chance to. I mean, I love the way she positioned herself. Just some really good footwork, a couple of small mid-low range jumpers, but still, 61 points at any level is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. No, it is. It's pretty amazing. We love history, but that's what I'm saying. The season is crazy, but it's just so fun to be a part of, get to witness for sure. On the women's side and the men's side, I have no idea who's going to win. Obviously, UConn still has no Paige Becker, so they're up in the air. South Carolina has struggled with injuries as well, but they have
on the women's side, right?
They have a beast down low as well in Aliyah Boston. If you guys haven't caught South Carolina, She produces just great post players every single year. It's never a question with Dawn Staley in South Carolina. So I'm very excited to see, the first March Madness of women's basketball this year. Did you know they're also expanding the tournament on the women's side? They're adding teams. They're adding the play-in games.
Okay, tell me about that.
So we never had play-in games on the men's side. I think it was normally the HBCU conferences and the low major conferences have the opportunity after they win their conference, which I don't think is kind of fair, but obviously the talent level and the physical level is different from those levels, but you have to play in. So I think my junior year, NCCU played Duke to try to get into the tournament. So they have those play-in games. So I think there's an extra 6 teams, I want to say, something along those lines. You don't fact me on that. But, yeah, so they're adding that to the women's side now, which will be interesting. Those teams rarely win, but every now and then you get a UMKC knocking off number 1 Virginia, right. And then they knocked off. So that's kind of where that came from. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year now with March Madness for sure.
Well, especially after last year with the COVID, being able to actually play it, it's pretty nice. So
yeah. Well, let's take a little pivot because I have so much to say about last night or this weekend's football. I mean,
can I start out?
Go ahead.
That was the best football game. The Buffalo Kansas City game was the best football game I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable. It was 2 of the most remarkable quarterback performances I've ever seen in my life. It was just fantastic. And then to top that off is the other 3 football games were not as good, but they were still on the top of my list of some of the best football games I've seen in a long time. But to end it with, I was on the plane and the gentleman in front of me had the Tampa Bay game on. And I watched that, and going from 28 to 13 to 28 to 27 to 13 to 28 to 20, and then to tie it up was pretty.
Well,
it was pretty. Yeah. Yes.
Now, and it's pretty awesome. You say it's pretty Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yes. He does the remarkable. Do you think he's going to retire?
No, he's too good to retire. He's still playing at a very, very high level. You got to understand, he lost a lot of players. Their defense lost a lot of players. They lost a lot of players, and he's still. I think the difference between him and Aaron Rodgers needs players to win. They rely on Brady to win. Brady will will a team in spite of who he has on his team. And I think that's the biggest difference if you want to compare the two. Aaron has a great, great arm, but
he's a once in a lifetime as well. But
yes. But then now you see the changing of the guard with Patrick Mahomes and this new kid. Oh my God, he is be good. He is. Yes.
Well, he's from Wyoming.
Excuse me?
You wrap your head around. He played football Wyoming. He's playing out of his mind. I want to say that this new era of quarterbacks is so amazing to watch. Like, you have them all across the board. You have Josh Allen, who has an arm but also has the ability to run. You have Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes does everything that we've never seen before, right? He's doing him and Kyle Murray, they're throwing stuff at us, right? Then you have Lamar Jackson, who just throws. He's showing us that the quarterback position can be everything we thought it couldn't be, right? And so this youth of quarterback is just so exciting to watch. And I think this was a quarterback amazing game between Kansas City and the Bills. I didn't think the Chiefs. I have no idea how they won that game under 13 seconds.
Buffalo made a critical mistake of kicking the ball off. They should have script kicked it, and that would have took some more time off the clock. It got it down to maybe 8 seconds. So why they didn't? The script kick is when you kick the ball on the ground, Faith. They have to return it.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's one thing that I was questioning, and it wasn't the only one. They called that Bills used their last time out before the last possession to give Patrick Mahomes also the I don't know if they were trying to stop him or throw him off. They're trying to reset their defense. I think, but they didn't get to use their timeout, obviously, to freeze the kicker. Obviously, he missed one earlier today, but I don't think any timeout would disrupt Patrick Mahomes' ability to get down into field goal position at all. So I don't know. It seemed like they were just desperate because I feel like they knew. But this is my question, and this is going to be a question for our viewers as well. Should they change the NFL overtime rule?
So let me back up. Let me talk a little bit about the game itself. Now the rule, it's got to be in question, but it's I think the defense still has a chance, Faith. All they need to do is stop them from scoring a touchdown. Okay? To score a touchdown is very, very hard on that first possession. So if they'd have kicked the field goal, Buffalo would have got the ball back. So the score a touchdown was tough. So, it's something you got to look at. I mean, obviously, this will question it. It's up for debate, but it's only up for debate because the way that team lost. The team lost. They shouldn't have lost. Neither one of those teams should have lost. Neither one of those quarterbacks played. And there was nothing that they did that would cause them to lose.
Well, here's my thing about this. Every sport has to evolve to what the next generation is creating. I'm starting to think that these quarterbacks, what we're seeing is something like we've seen it before, but the fact that every team has this type of level of amazing talent at the quarterback position.
Not every team.
Right, not every team, but if they're in the playoffs, they do.
Right.
Okay, we talk about Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, think about a lineup like that. That's not normal.
And that's why they're in the playoffs too.
Right, that's why they're in the playoffs, and that's where they normally. That's the only time you really see the overtime rule come into effect because you have amazingly close games. But my thing is, when you think about how high level these games are, they're going to come down to that, and I think that the rule should evolve towards the fact that we're scoring more easily now in the NFL. The points are higher, right? They're scoring more easily. We watched them put up how many touchdowns on the board under a minute 30?
Well, the reason they're scoring more is because the defense is out on the field longer and they're tired. It is definitely a game is since I played has evolved to give the offense the advantage.
Right. So is it fair that the offense doesn't get opportunity to take it out on the other tired defense?
Yeah, it's debatable. But that was both teams. If Kansas City had lost that coin toss, it's up to their defense. It's up to the defense to stop the team. It's up to. Leslie Frazier, who will probably be a head coach. He was a head coach for the Chicago Bears, defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. He's probably the best defensive coordinator in the league.
Yep. You
can't do too much when your defense is tired like that. You're playing against a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, So, Faith, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with the rule, but it was the rule, and both teams had an opportunity to win the game.
Right. That's the rule. There's no change in the rule. I will say this. There's one quarterback who spoke out against the overtime rule early in the season. He said it needs to change. You know who that was?
Who was that?
Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
Okay, so when we think about this, could you imagine playing basketball where it's sudden death in the first overtime?
Yeah.
Why not just keep the game going, right? And here's my thing, because Josh Allen would have scored. If you had, I know he would have, because that's just how great and how on fire they were, right? They were in a momentum. So
yeah.
I just think, why not? You know what I mean? Just do it to the end, and you know what I mean. Make somebody lose the game altogether on both ends. I just always have fault, and not putting it kind of in the. While it is in the hands of the defense, a very tired defense every single time you play for that long, especially after the run, what they had to do in those under a minute 30 in that game, that defense was running for probably a minute 30 straight. But
so how about doing it the way the college does? This is thought. But the college, they actually put it on the 15 to 20 yard line, and they go back and forth, and they get one shot. Or no, that's after they get one shot to the end zone. Then after that, it's just one play.
Right.
One play.
I think that just make it evolve just a teensy bit.
Right.
That's the fact that it's very much, you can't say, yes, it is on the defensive shoulders, but it's very much heavily weighted on a coin.
Both. Well, that's a team game.
We don't even, you know what I mean? Coins. That's
the longer the game, Faith, the more the advantage is going to be on the offense because the defense will get tired. Because you got those guys rushing that passer every play. The guys who are blocking are not rushing; they're just blocking. The guys who are rushing are running. So they're going to get, and then, of course, the receivers might get a little tired, but the defensive backs are tired, and they lost. Both teams. Of course, God, Buffalo has some phenomenal safeties. I was really impressed by them too.
Yeah.
Back to the game. As far as the overtime rule, they will probably look at it. I don't see it changing anytime soon, but there are some things that will make it probably. Make it a little bit more fair. I don't know. So I
think about in all professional sports where the highest level of athletes play and the most amount of money is invested. I'm just thinking we got to continue to make sure that the sport is in line with where the sport can go and where the talent is going and where the players are going. And it just makes it more fun for everybody involved. So that's all I'm saying. Basketball constantly evolves. Soccer constantly evolves. Baseball, I don't really know, honestly, but just evolve, right? They added all those rules to protect safety, 100%. But hey, when it comes down competitive, right? Just change it that way too. And I'm on to maybe tweak it just a slight bit. I'm not the only one. There's probably about 800 people in the NFL who work at organizations who agree with me. It's like in basketball, the charge rule. It's very much questionable. It's been in there forever. But the game is just changing, and now kids are starting to master it a little bit more and use the cards to their advantage.
Yeah. So back to they're going to look at it on the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Be interesting.
I don't think they'll change it either. No. I don't think they'll change it either. I don't have much faith in the NFL in all terms of things.
Why is that?
Because it's very much behind. That's all. And I'm not wrong about this. Everyone knows the NFL has older people in power in comparison to how.
Well, specifically, what are you talking about? I think right now it's the number one sport in the world right now. Is it?
You can be the number one sport and still be failing.
Okay, so where are they?
I got it.
The NFL failing.
Okay, they're failing in terms of justice. They're failing in terms of diversity. They have 30 out of 32 NFL head coaches are white. They're failing in terms of their rule changes. They're failing in terms of protecting the ball. Like, there's a lot of ways the NFL struggles. The NBA, and we know this, the NBA, and this is because their demographic is significantly different than the NFL, and that's not their fault. It's just how more kids play basketball now, kids of color and kids of lower socioeconomic backgrounds than NFL, even though the NFL is higher in those demographics. Look, the NBA right now has younger people coaching. They have younger people in administrative roles. They have younger people owning teams. And that's just because it's a younger league. That's all, right? You can go to the NBA at 17. You can't go to the NFL at 17. So their careers start later. So their professional careers start later. And then they're in administrative roles later. That's all.
So I didn't disagree with you because I didn't know the answer. I disagree with you because I wanted you to tell the audience why they are failing. You're so right.
This hit it out right on the head. I don't understand how we can give a season and off season of training, hard work, effort, investment to a coin.
Well, anyway, but let's get back. You're right. I mean, the coin toss starts the game, Faith.
Dad, no other sport in history does that anymore.
Yeah, well.
They just think about it. That's all. I don't know how they start the game. I don't think they should ever change that.
The coin toss. They
switches possessions so much. You know what I mean? But basketball switches possessions too. Every sport switches possessions. But for football, I generally don't think the coin toss in the beginning of the game affects throughout the game. But I do think when you're talking about a one possession opportunity, a coin should not be the way. I don't know how they do it. Maybe they do it like last, jump ball. I don't know. But they got to find a way to at least tweak the rule a little bit so that each team gets an opportunity. It's just fun. It's more fun. You want to watch like great football. You want to see where they can take it.
So why don't they do that consistent with basketball when they do the tip off? But then when they tie the game up during the course of the game, they alternate.
No, they don't. In the NBA, when they get a jump ball, they jump the ball.
Okay, they do it. Okay.
Because they're in 2022.
Right. So get back to why I disagree with you, so I can get really specifically why you feel that the NFL is behind times, and that's exactly what I wanted to hear from you, because you are right.
Older, that's all. They're just older, and that's okay. And here's the thing: the NFL is slowly creating change, right? It's slowly making steps. The NBA just fast tracks everything, and that's because and this is the conversation we had when we watched I Am Athlete with Brandon Marshall and them. NBA basketball are more confident in speaking out about not just all that stuff, but also like rule changes and what's dumb and what's not dumb, right? I mean, how many times have we heard people complain about James Harden drawing fouls on 3-point line by leading into people, but technically that's a foul because you disrupted the shooting motion of the offensive player. We see it all the time, right? It's just the NBA players have more. I genuinely think they have a more safe space to speak up, right? And the sport isn't as cutthroat, right? And their lifespan playing their game is just longer. You're a little more likely to play longer in the NBA than you will in NFL because of injury, because of just the environment of the NFL. It's hard. So that's my only thing. I think the NFL is slow moving because, it just has a little bit of an older crowd in positions, but also it's just really hard to make change in that league.
Yeah. So I'm gonna loop back to. I asked that question in terms of the popularity of the sports from a lens of the commercial watching the game. But you are so right regarding African American coaches, African American general managers. You are so right with teams and cities being very uncomfortable with players speaking out compared to the WNBA and the NBA.
Yeah.
Your owners are your traditional owners that are more concerned about the revenue versus the cause, right? So those are some things that are very, very true, and people still get uncomfortable talking about it. But I'm glad that's specifically what I wanted you to come back with, and good. So the season is going to be over. Let's talk about some of those coaches that are up for jobs. What jobs are up? You got Chicago Bears job is up.
Miami.
The Miami job is up. So who are some of the top candidates, African American candidates that you feel should be? One is Leslie Frazier. I think he should be a high candidate.
Do you think I can speak on that I know who just said by following his career? That's the only one I can speak on who's up for the job, and I have heard his name in conversations with Miami.
Right. So you have the offensive coordinator for Kansas City. You have the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, how amazing is that you could be an offensive coordinator for a Patrick Mahomes and a Tom Brady? I mean, yes, they're probably really great at their jobs, but I mean, talk about execution every single time you present an opportunity to a quarterback. That just has to be a major career boost for sure. So I don't know. I am very interested. I will say this because I don't have much background on the actual names. I just know I have seen Leslie Frazier and a lot of great conversation around him. And if he is jobless by the end of this offseason, I'm going to have some questions.
Well, he won't be jobless, but I'm talking about as a head coach. Yeah.
In a way. I will say this. The study came out earlier this month, I believe. Sports Illustrated presented an article with 30 out of 32 coaches are now back to white, 2 are black head coaches. The NFL adopted the Rooney Rule back in 2003 to try to create diversity in these positions to match the diversity on the field. And there has been studies back in 2020 proving that nowhere in the skills, preparation, or qualifications has a black coach fallen short for a reason for him not to get the job. It's just, in fact, just who you're comfortable with is who you hire. And that's why we have to continue diverse all places of football, not just head coaching and assistant coaching, but also, who makes these decisions, who's preparing the players, all those types of things has to have diversity to match the field. So it's going to be very interesting in this off season for sure. And I'm sure you're going to have a couple names, but that Miami firing was hard for a lot of people because they didn't understand it. But I'm very interested to see who's going to fill that role because they got a lot of talent over there in Tua. because he's going to be back next year, a quarterback. We haven't seen him in a while. So I don't know. It's just a lot of moving pieces when it comes to the NFL, of course, a lot of moving pieces that for the better, a lot of moving pieces for the worse. We just want to make sure we don't go backwards and continue to kind of create opportunities for all that deserve it so that the game can continue to grow the way it can go. Because I'm telling you, it just is so great. How great is a sport in the hands of the next generation to continue to grow it and make it better? And it's just more fun for the rest of us.
Well, the offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, is the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's phenomenal. And, he should definitely deserve a job. Be considered as one. Let's see who else we have here. You have Marcus Brady. You have Andy Dern. These are all good top candidates. Jerry Gray. These are good top court candidates. Yeah. So hopefully some of those guys will get a chance. So
we'll see. We'll see. So I always wanted to just be diverse across the board. Right? And this is not to check a quota. It's not to do any of those things. It's, for those of you who know, I work on a diversity foundation, and we dedicate a lot of our times to creating diversity in those head coaching positions, because head coaches have the most voice, right, in the league in a lot of points, because they are directing the talent. And they are kind of the, what do I want to say? They're the in-between, the liaison between ownership and talent. And so it's very important that we make sure those positions often match the voices that are trying to come through the league. I think the NBA, I keep shouting out NBA, but I'm very proud of kind of how they do after Donald Sterling with the Clippers, they have completely reworked how the organization try to address things and try to make things happen for all people, not just Black people, but all across the board of diversity with women, gender. It's very important that we provide great opportunities for difference, because when you add difference to these places, great things happen in return. So right. And the NFL really could, it has so much potential. It is the most important sport, in the world. People love it in all parts of it. It has violence, it has winning, it has competitiveness, it has talent and amazing catches. So adding some more flair to it and adding some more difference would be pretty cool to see in the offseason.
Right. Could you talk about pipeline for change for a minute? Because it's amazing, because
what'd you say?
Can you talk about Pipeline for Change?
Yeah, so I do all the time. So Pipeline for Change is a diversity foundation dedicated to it's dedicated to creating opportunities for all people, oppressed people, so gender, race, ethnicity, into places of power and position of decision-making, so that you add diversity in those places. That'll overall help sports in the room, because sports goes hand in hand with society and how society operates. We've seen politics and sports go hand in hand within the last 4 years for sure. So it's very important. As you guys know, I don't know, but the White Sox hired the first woman manager ever in MLB minor league history last month. And so, that is just along the lines of, that's kind of our goal is adding diversity, adding LGBTQ, adding, racially difference, adding women making decisions outside of just media. So that's kind of what we do. Very long lines of what the NFL needs to do and what we're talking about. That's one of our biggest ones, is trying to correct or make it easier for people to kind of get exposure to those jobs, to get exposure to learning how to become a scout or how to become a coach, how to become a strength coach, all those things, even if they don't look like the normal hetero male.
Okay. Good.
So, taking on the world every day. That's what we do.
Okay, right. Well, we did pivot a little bit in the NFL, but just getting back to the playoffs. So now you have a matchup. Let's talk about the matchup. You have Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati just beat them a couple weeks ago. And now you have the 49ers against the Rams. And this will be the third time they played against each other. So you got two really good conference, not conference, but yeah, league championship.
League championships, yeah.
Yes.
I will say this about 49ers. That quarterback is really good. He's not Josh Allen, right? But he is so fun to watch. They call him the Italian Stallion.
Garoppolo. He's from Illinois, right?
Yes. And he's really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a great set of quarterbacks. Really, it's just fun to see change every single year. Like, it's just someone new, right? Normally we had an era where all we saw was the greatest quarterbacks of all time, right? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. We saw them, right? But we're really seeing some cool talent and young talent. So it's really cool to watch. So no idea. Now that Aaron Rodgers ain't in it.
No one's talking about Matthew Stafford.
I always talk about
Stafford.
I always talk about Stafford. I really like Matthew Stafford and all his stuff. It's like, Matthew Stafford has a huge family. He's like a football team at home. You don't know this.
No,
seriously. And so I find it so funny because they have like so many kids and they have traveled like so much and been on 2 different cities in LA. I'm telling you something about being in LA with Odell Beckham. Don't forget who he's throwing the ball to though, too. If you really wrap your head around that, that's dangerous. That's one of the most lights out receivers we've seen.
Well, he's definitely his career has been rejuvenated. I'll tell you that. He's got a new energy.
It's hard for him. Cleveland, but sometimes you end up places you just can't be.
Right.
I'm sure he's not the only person that has ever struggled in Cleveland, Ohio.
It's definitely where was he at? He was at Cleveland? He's not a Cleveland man. He's an LA man.
Yeah, he was in New York. He's big market. He's big market.
Right.
He's big market player. So very interested to see. I don't know who's going to win anymore because Kansas City. Well, I'm really interested to see, will the Honey Badger be back?
Well, that's what the Buford just said. Their defense needs improvement. They need the Honey Badger back, and he has a concussion.
Oh, so he'll be back.
Yeah, he has a concussion. And,
he'll
be back. He'll be back.
Yeah, I always love.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I always love about Kansas City during playoff time. We watched them struggle early in the season. They couldn't figure it out. They've been here before. What is this, 4 in a row? They've been in this game? Yeah, 4 years in a row.
But you know what? Let me say something. Patrick Mahomes has so much humility. He said it took him almost 5 games to locate the Mike linebacker. He was struggling with reading. I mean, for someone to have enough humility to talk about his weaknesses and things he needs to work on,
right,
and actually progress. Both those quarterbacks, that to me is a sign of a great professional athlete. And then watch him. He said, He said the defense is carrying us right now, and so he was figuring it out. He's figuring it out. Now he's playing his best football. He's reading the defenses the way he was reading the defenses, but he outwardly told the world that he was struggling reading the defenses. That took a lot of courage.
Yeah, it did. And you know what? The defenses now you guys have always had visibility to, scouting and stuff like that. But defensive now, as a quarterback, I'm sure you have to constantly tune your game between every single game.
Disguise. A lot of it's disguising, and the last minute disguising. It's such a sophisticated. It was pretty sophisticated when I played, but it's nowhere near where it is now. I mean, the offensive and the defensive court, it's like a chess match, Faith.
Yeah.
It's like a chess match. You like tendencies. You almost kind of come up the line of scrimmage, and all the game doesn't really start until they start the cadence. That's when the adjustments are being made. It's an amazing, amazing game.
Right. So at the end of the day, who do you have winning? Who do you have winning? I have Kansas City because I think I really want Kansas to win something in life.
I tell you, the reason I say Kansas City because I thought Buffalo would be the sleeper. Beating Buffalo, to me, I thought Buffalo was playing the best football. I thought Green Bay was playing pretty good football, but then Kansas City now, over the last 2 weeks, are playing their best football. I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Yeah.
Don't rest. Don't rule out the Rams.
Yeah, I'm Matthew Stafford. He's been playing so long. I will say I agree with you completely. After you win a game like they did last night, it's almost like they deserve.
It's impossible. There's no way. The game was over.
Yeah, 13 seconds.
13 seconds.
And he got there so fast. He got there in 6 seconds. All right. Well,
when you have a kid that runs a 40-yard dash, I mean, that kid is so fast.
He would look like
so fast. I've never seen that much. I have never seen speed like that ever.
Well, it's again evolution. No, seriously, like the reason your generation crawls so we can walk to run. I mean, it's just how it works, and then it will do it all over again. But that's why you gotta keep flowing with the future. You gotta keep moving with it.
They have
to get faster.
He's at another level of speed that I've never seen before.
He's floating.
Yes.
Well, both teams were floating. I'll say that. Both teams were floating last night. Crazy. But yeah, so awesome stuff. And we talked a little bit about head coaching in the NFL and the importance of representation, being in those positions to represent what's on the field. And we talk about that, and it kind of dives a little bit into what we're going to talk about today, which is how important coaches are towards talent and how important that dynamic is to the winning and overall success of an organization. And something we saw and we discussed plenty of times this weekend was this new generation of athletes and how this, at the end of the day, the generation of coaches who have been coaching for 30, 40 years are starting to try to evolve and tweak and change their style of coaching towards the new generation of athletes in today's society. And so one of the things, Dad, I would love to hear your initial thoughts on what you kind of viewed a little bit this season. I mean, from this weekend of just being kind of back in a college game environment from the basketball point of view. But obviously then I can touch a little bit on what my experience was working and coaching in collegiate basketball the last 2 years and a little bit about, the change. It is a little different from even when I played, and then I'm sure from you when you played. So overall thoughts on the weekend and kind of thoughts about, coaching and today's athlete and how it's kind of changing and evolving and presenting this new light.
Yeah, I like you said, this is the first game I've seen up close where I was able to see coaches coach. I mean, Bill Self was literally 10 feet from us, watching other coaches, players. How players react to adversity that's happening on the court, but how they were reacting to things when they didn't go their way individually. You always want to be a team player. I think the new generation is so much about me. And I think the biggest challenge for coaches today is getting players to understand it is about you if you put the team first. So if you're sitting at a free throw, you shoot the free throw, and then you see that you're coming out, your whole mentality changes because you're coming out. Is to me, when I played, was you never got back in the game after that.
Well, there were also people who played during your era who had the same mentality, but I think what you just said was so spot on, Dad. You said it can be about you as long as you understand when and where to put the team first, and when you being about you helps the all total organization and team. I thought that was so spot on because you're right. You're right.
You can be selfish, Faith, by not taking a shot when you should take a shot.
Yeah, unless you better make it. You don't shake it, you gotta make it. You know what I mean? But you're so right. Sometimes maybe your shot isn't as good as that shot, right? And maybe one more pass is better. And then that's something, man, we talked about that when I played, right? Is next pass mentality. And sometimes we all passed up so many open shots because we were like, oh, we're next pass, right? You get a great thrill of being a teammate when the ball goes around the horn in basketball and it's an amazing three, right? For maybe someone who can always shoot, or you get the perfect shot.
Yeah,
right?
Yes. But let's talk about the confidence. Let's talk about the mental toughness of that player. We were talking about last week. The confidence of that player who has the shot but won't take the shot because they missed their last 5 shots. And they just
I will say this about this generation, right? Confidence isn't as low as when I was playing. I'll say this, right? I think some of these kids are overconfident, which is great. right? Because we're doing a great job of creating, the affirmation, the positive, like, hey, just keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting, right? Give us something to rebound, make the shot, right? We're doing a great job with that. But you're right in the sense of there are still kids who struggle with that confidence. And I think that when we talk about today, we're talking about, today's coaching. Coaches have to be everything with these kids. I mean, I don't think it was always that at one point, right? Once it was being great with X and O's. And it was also being great is creating the next generation of society, right? Showing young men how to be great men, right? And young women to be great women and
great
adults and great morale and great leadership. And that was all great, what we were preaching. It's different now. Now we're teaching them, and they just have so many. Well, let's start with this. They have so much more on their plate than we did. I want to be honest with that. They do, right? They're now business owners and entrepreneurs, right? They now have more control over where they can play and when they want to play and who they want to play for, right? We give them apartments, we give them resources, we give them money, we give them the things that they deserve as professional athletes for what they generate and the hard work they put in. Because everybody knows college sports is extremely hard and often not fun, which is what we were talking about the other day. But I will say this about their mental strength. It's often not just because they work so hard. I'll say this. I have seen these kids in the gym. When I was at LIU, they'd be in the gym every night, playing, practicing, shooting, playing one-on-one, playing. They're in the gym, which is different from what we have seen. We used to preach, work hard, be in the gym, but now they're in the gym. But when they get in the game, it's almost like now you're tweaking their brains back towards we. And I think it's because we've created such a, hey, you do deserve to be here. You do deserve to play, right? If you don't play, you do deserve to go pick your next school, to pick your next coach. And all of that's great opportunity, but also comes with, like what we talk about, the entitlement factor in some who don't see the truth of the situation or the bigger picture of how me helps we. And that is where it's hard to coach. That's where it's hard to hey, how do I tap into these kids' brains? Because they are so independent already, right? They are so aware of their mental health. They are so aware of who they are and why they're making the decisions, but why are they still making the decisions? And that's where I see a lot of blocking for coaches because they don't know how to reach. And I don't have the answers. It's from my experience, it was just like you're giving them the resources, you're giving them, they know when they do something wrong, they know when they're being selfish, but they can't find a way to flip the switch. And that's creating a pretty hard environment for a lot of coaches in today's society.
Do you think coaching staff have a sports psychologist that is specifically assigned to each team?
We shared a sports psychologist. I'm not going to speak ill of him because he's actually really sick right now with leukemia. And he did a great job with sports. However, when you use one psychiatrist towards all sports, it's not applicable.
It should be sports specific.
It's to be sports specific. And I also think it's sports specific because then you can spend time with the players. You can actually form these relationships instead of you being someone they have to come to. It can be a mutual relationship. I feel like that this position should be just as important as an assistant coach. Obviously not get paid the most, but be someone who is around as much as a nutritionist, as much as a sports information director for marketing, like all those people who come in and work with the student athletes on a daily, training them, helping them, take care of themselves. I feel like each sport should have their own. And I don't think not just for mental health, but more kind of like helping the kids trying to figure out what is it that stops me in the game? What is it that stops me from thinking, right? Why can't I see that kid's open, but I can see he's open from the bench? So stuff along those lines, I think, would be really helpful. And that just kind of takes the pressure off of college coaches from having to do everything.
I was just thinking that when you were sharing that, I was just thinking how much pressure that would take off college coaches when they're spending most of their time trying to figure out what's the mental struggles that are going on with this kid. I mean, great coaches, we've lived through it, but then how many great basketball, potentially great players, could have been great at that team if they had someone pay a little bit more attention to what was going on with them versus bailing out.
A better coach. Often it's a better coach. There are bad coaches out there, right? We have to hit that nail on the head. There are bad coaches. And sometimes they're great coaches, but they're bad coaches for that athlete. And that's why I'm a big advocate for the transfer portal in a comfortable quantity. Don't be going in every year. But I will say this about coaching. In today's era, just like how the kids have so many more hats they have to balance and choices they get now because they're allowed to, college coaches balance. And I have to, because I don't think people really understand the difference between college coaching and professional coaching. College coaching is they have academics to worry about. They have financial aid, financial scholarship, and Pell Grants to worry about. They have their staff to worry about, right? Constantly rearranging and holding their staff accountable, but also scouting reports. They have media. They have marketing. They have boosters. They have alumni. They have all these things. And then they have to then every year think of a theme that will inspire their organization to win games. And when they don't win games, it's on the chopping block. So college basketball and college sports, because of the academics, because you're working with 17 to 22-year-olds, it's just a lot more complicated, right? There's a lot more layers to the game in comparison to the professional level where you're actually coaching and working with adults. And when they don't, you can just fire them. You can't fire an 18-year-old, right? You have to find a way to work into their brain to get them to buy into what you're trying to say. And sometimes it just doesn't work. And that's frustrating. That's where what makes, kind of that job really hard. And I don't have answers I just don't have answers. I think I love your idea of making sure sports psych is directly locked in with other sports, making sure you have your own personal sport. I love that idea. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's because it's hard, because sometimes you do have those kids you can't reach.
And it started at an earlier age because these kids are so much younger, talented, right?
Mm-hmm. We're having adult conversations with them too, right?
Right.
We're talking to them like they're adults,
yes.
Right?
And a lot of them are very mature. 17, 18-year-old kids are very mature in a lot of ways, but very immature in a lot of ways.
Out of inexperience, 100%. Yeah. But you know what? Here's the great thing. Because of everything that your generation has learned and been through, you taught it to the next generation. The next generation taught me. Then the generation before me taught me, right? And so now we turn and we're teaching them. So what these kids are learning now, it's more not, gosh, I have to struggle and be stressed out and be in pain and be in all these things in order for us to be successful. These kids are starting to learn, like, why can't we work smarter than harder? And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Now they're starting to prioritize their body's health, right? Like, hey, coach, my knee is really hurting me today. It doesn't make sense for me to push through when we play on Thursday, right? These conversations are happening now. And so that's another thing that's so hard for those college coaches that have been at this for 30 years, 25 years, right?
Yeah, well, what do you mean push through? Because you're not tough enough to practice through that pain, right?
Or even as along the lines of, okay, now I only have 5 kids in practice and I got to play Tennessee tomorrow. Right. Who's my scout team? How do we prepare to play number 6 in the country if I only have 6 kids in practice and everybody else is icing, doing treatment? So you have to adjust how you teach. You have to adjust how you do things, right? And that goes down to maybe recruiting kids who get basketball, who understand the game. So you're not teaching as much, right? You're not teaching X's and O's. You're teaching them time and score. You're teaching them, hey, if we're under 7 seconds, don't call timeout, we're going. You're teaching them, right? You're having conversations along those lines. And I will say the high school level, the kids are getting smarter and more aware of how they're doing things. But you have a lot more on your plate now as a coach and in college sports. You just do, right? You're working with kids that are smarter, they're more aware, they get it, they understand the long-term goals of their careers. Awesome if they're great at sports. You do have some who aren't great, are pushing the narrative a little too hard, but it is very much down to now you have to really gotta start thinking. You gotta really start thinking and sitting still and being like, man, how can I reach these kids? Because they're reachable, but they're like way ahead of where we were at 18, 19 years old. They get it, right? Yeah. They're not gonna play on a broken ankle. They think that's ridiculous. What are we playing on a broken ankle for? So yeah, it's just different, Dad. And I'm glad you got to witness it this weekend, because it's not just what we watched this weekend. It's when I was coaching. It's different. They get it now. And it's frustrating if you don't evolve with it. You know what I mean? Because it's not just sports that's in this new generation. It's the Gen Z and the millennials are pushing the new narrative of how to operate in systems as bosses, as coworkers, as players, athletes, president, who knows, right? It's just different. So we're witnessing a big change for sure. I don't have answers though. I don't have answers. I don't have any answers.
Right.
But we can acknowledge that change is happening for sure.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. What an awesome show. We really enjoyed talking a little bit about that football playoff. I mean, how lucky are we that we got to witness that this weekend? I mean, that's a once in a lifetime. And I'm only more excited to see next weekend. Because and then more Aaron Rodgers, more Tom Brady.
We'll see what happens.
I said last year, I wonder if those two guys are going to be in the playoffs next year. Not saying they're not great and not saying they're supposed to be, because they are, but they're playing against some real talent. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Move over.
We have a Wednesday show coming up, Dave. We have a special show on Wednesday.
Yes, awesome show Wednesday. Go ahead and promote it, because you are a big one.
Myself, Reggie Smith, Mayor Mary Alexandra Basta, we came up with a event empowering our youth today with life tools with the event called Who Am I? And they will be our special guests on our Wednesday show. And
Who Am I is an event dedicated to the ages of 12 to 17 in the Bolingbrook Valley, that area, Plainfield, Romeo, Naperville, whoever can actually drive in, because I actually have seen some interesting schools line up, and they have some really great speakers coming in and just talk about not just those key developmental that age group, but also teaching leadership, teaching communication, teaching how to navigate mental health. You guys have a lot of great stuff on that list, and a couple great NFL
bullying, cyberbullying, just social media, just stuff that they're navigating, stuff that they're experiencing. They'll walk away with some really good life tools that day.
Yep. So check out the website if you want to learn more. They have a nice landing page set up. And so we will, have them on Wednesday, and we hope to see everyone then soon. So save the date, let us know, and then come say hello. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you especially to Amazon Prime, Roku, Apple TV, and of course our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus. We use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others on strengthening the family core. And of course, our slogan,
let go, let God, let go, faith, let go, let faith, let go, let love.
Everyone have a wonderful week. Yeah, and a wonderful week, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.